Hey guys, and welcome back to a new video. So guys, we are reading a book which is Napoleon Hill, The Golden Rule of Success. So we are on its chapter number 5. So without wasting any time, let's start at reading. Chapter 5, Initiative. Mothers are the queerest things. Yet our present civilization owes its existence to the mother instead of the race. I had not intended this as a destruction on mothers or they mother love. Yet I mentioned mothers in the beginning and I shall mention mothers in closing. A little lad was the immediate cause of my writing this. I write about him for several reasons, and as far as I can tell, the least of these is the fact that he is our son, his mother's and mine. But be it remembered, he is only one of our three sons. But my subject is initiative. The women folk and the children take second place as far as the particular writings is concerned. Wherever I see a person exercise that rare quality and initiative, whether that person may be man or woman, child or grown up, I always feel like lending that person encouragement to repeat the performance. Perhaps then the real object of this article may be to encourage this little chap when he grows older and turns back the pages of this magazine and reads what his daddy wrote years before. Perhaps also I may be writing as a means of encouraging other little chaps and some who are no longer so little to emulate this little fellow's example. At any rate, hear the story. Someone has said that all people are born equal. I challenge that statement. In fact, I can disapprove it beyond any question of doubt. All people are not born equal. All have equal rights to enjoy freedom after birth, which of course is a far different matter from being born equal. From early childhood, some children are highly educated, and by educated, I mean that they have the ability to get what they want. They have strategic ability. They know how to make use of the law of self-preservation. Other children have not such ability. Some of these later acquire it by training, while others never do. It always has been, and perhaps always will be, a nice question as to whether training enables a child to acquire the needed ability to protect its interests, or whether training merely develops what is quietly slumbering within the child, waiting to be aroused and put into operation. It is not my purpose to answer this question, but merely to raise it for you to think about as you read. The little fellow about whom I am writing is my namesake. To be perfectly formal and proper, then meet Master Napoleon Blair Hill, financier, businessman, and all round in economic problems, also in managing fathers and mothers. A few months ago, Blair wanted to go into the newspaper business. His mother had one set of notion about the proposed enterprise, while his father had still another. You know how mothers are. All through the ages, they have sacrificed themselves to relieve their offspring of burden. They have slaved and toiled and deprived themselves that their children might not have a hard time as such as they had when they were children. Blair's mother was very much like all the others in this respect, a quality that I am in no way condemning. Instead, I am condemning it. I wanted to see all of a boys experience that wonderful thrill which comes to a boy when he feels for the first time that he is doing something on his own. I wanted to push him off the rail into deep water so he could learn to swim, so to speak, like the old eagle that takes the eagle to the edge of the cliff and pushes them over that they may learn to use their wings. I wanted to see Blair go into the newspaper business and get his jaw stepped on by older boys and turned away by the grown-ups who see nothing in a little news merchant except a wave of the streets and many other thrills, all of which from the viewpoint of a father would have been good and necessary experience for him. While his mother and I were talking the matter over from day to day, Blair made matters much more easy for both of us by exercising some of that rare quality called initiative. One night, while we were away, he went to the neighborhood shoemaker, an Italian gentleman with whom he was on good friendly terms, and negotiated a loan of 6 cents. He took this capital and invested it in newspapers. He sold his chalk repeater, sold out again until he was too tired to work any longer. Then he returned the capital he had borrowed and made his way homeward with his profits 47 cents. In one evening, without previous experience, without counsel, without advice on borrowed capital, this little chap earned within 3 cents of as much as I used to earn for a whole day's work when I was more than twice his age. When his mother and I got home that night, we heard the story of this unusual business success. Blair was in bed, asleep, but the housekeeper gave us the details. We went into Blair's room. A little fellow was sleeping on one hand. His mother removed the hand from under his head, opened up his dirty little paw, and nickels and pennies rolled all over the room. He was taking no chances on losing that hard earned money, so to bed with him it went. Now, this is why I say mothers are the queerest things. Blair's little mother crawled around over the floor, gathered up those pennies and nickels, and placed every one of them back in his hand. Then knelt by his bedside and cried as if heart would break. Mothers are the queerest things, aren't they now? Blair's transaction affected me differently. The significance that I attached to it was the come what would. Here was one of our four boys who would always be able to earn his way. I saw leadership in my child and I was proud, very proud of that ability. I saw one thing while his mother saw something else. What she doubtless was greatly modified by her mother instinct. That instinct which was sacrificed and caused mothers to stand between their offspring and danger and pain all through the ages. Blair's mother saw a tired little boy who had been wagging a bundle of newspapers around over the dangerous streets, facing all sorts of dangers. I saw a proud little businessman whose first enterprise had been a huge success, and the experience of which would give him greater courage and more faith in his ability in his next effort. It was all matter of viewpoint and previous emotional experiences. His mother had inherited and experienced from her contact with life one set of emotions, while I had inherited and acquired an entirely different set. Consequently, the self-same transaction applied to each of us in a different manner. Blair's hair is long, but you must get the notion that he is in any manner effeminate on that account. I mention the reason why his hair is long because it has an important bearing on what I am writing about him. His hair is worn long to cover his deformed ears. Nature played a cruel trick on this little chap. Or was it really cruel? By forgetting to give him ears, he has no sign of an ears. But he hears almost as well as a person whose ears are normal. The difference mainly is in looks. But what nature left of in experience, she compensated for in other ways, as the story I have related partly shows. As far as I can see, Blair will not miss his ears very much, and his deformity will not embrace him after he grows large enough not to mind when other children laugh at him on account of his long hair. He made good use of his deformity now. It served him well when he wishes to pretend not to hear, when he is asked to do what he does not wish to do. Perhaps he, like Thomas Edison, will discover that defect of hearing serves to shut down a lot of worthless babbling which might otherwise interrupt a chain of intelligent thought. now and then, perhaps two, and I shall try to see that his happiness he'll cultivate a hearing only for the constructive words people speak. I shall try to see to it that he never learns to hear the words of the slanderous tongue, or if he really hears them, to make out he doesn't, as he sometimes does when his mother calls to him, "Blair, climb out of that apple tree and let those birds alone." On such occasions, he has exceedingly poor hearing. But when Daddy says, "Blair, would you like go to fishing this afternoon?" he can hear that a considerable distance away without training himself. But mothers are the queerest thing. Mothers are the queerest thing. Remember when John went away? All but mother cried and cried when she said goodbye that day. She just tried and seemed to be not the slightest but upset. Was the only thing who smiled. Others' eyes were streaming wet. But when John came back again on furlough, safe and sound, with a medal for his deeds and without a single wound, while the rest of us hurried, laughed and joked and danced about, mother kissed him, then she cried and cried like, "All get out." I'm not complaining about mother wanted to shield their children, not at all. And I love my boys just as much as their mother loves them. Only my love expresses itself in a different manner. My way is the man's way, her way is the woman's way. And I wouldn't change either if I could. There is a strife and struggle ahead for those little fellows, your and mine too. And the more we prepare them to meet the wearisome hills ahead, the better off they will be when they reach those hills, especially if we should not happen to be there to help them to do their climbing. I laughed when those nickels and pennies rolled out of the child's hand. His mother wept. I laughed because, well, maybe because I thought one person was enough to be weeping in this house at one time. As I took the little mother in my arms and gently led her away from her happy, slumbering child, I kissed the tears away from her cheeks as I told her what a wonderful businessman a little airless boy would grow up to be, and in my heart I felt that God made mothers just as they are, ever ready to shed a tear for every living thing that suffers pain and hardship. Perhaps I have written more about other things than I have about initiative, and perhaps I have written altogether too much about the members of my own family, but somehow I cannot help feeling that every mother and every father who read this will understand without further apology. Mothers are the queerest things. Mr. Addison, Mr. Addison questionnaire. Yes, I took a flying at Thomas Addison test question. The result was interesting. From offhand memory, I answered a little bit that 5% of the question and no more. Long pause. When you have or your laugh at my ignorance, laugh heartily. Because I do not mind being laughed at. Besides, laughing is one of the finest mental tonics on earth. Now, if you are through with your splitting exercise, settle down and read carefully for a few minutes, and I will do my best to have a little laugh with you, only I laugh first. I took Mr. Addison's entire list of questions as it was published in the public press, strolled over to the public library, and in exactly half an hour I had correctly answered 95% of the questions. Then, with two telephone calls, one to the Department of Chemistry of a local university and the other to one of our daily newspapers, I got the information with which to answer the other 5%, the entire performance consuming less than three quarters of an hour. I believe that many a person who tried to answer those questions and fell down, just as I did when relying on memory, failed to get the real significance behind the question and failed probably to learn the practical lesson those questions taught. namely that education consists not in facts stored away in one's own mind, but in knowing where and how to get facts quickly when needed. 95% of the question on Mr. Addison's list called for information that in no way has any bearing on my life. Consequently, I had no real lesson for carrying the necessary facts with which to answer them around in my mind. I soon learned after entering law school that no man could hope, nor was I expected, to carry all the law around in his head. I found that the purpose of law training was to teach a man how to get the particular point of the law he wanted when wanted and to be able to apply the right principle to the legal procedure in hand. Now, the same rule applies in all walks of life. Education consists of the ability to get whatever one needs, with which to successfully carry out his chosen work, and any knowledge beyond this is excess baggage, dead material, and might just as well be left in the encyclopedias, public libraries, and the archives of the institution of learning. True education consists of self-analysis that you may find out what sort of temperament you have. You what work you are best fitted to perform, and the ability to gather up the proper tools with which to do it. College degrees are no evidence per se that those holding them are educated. Neither is lack of a college degree evidence of ignorance or illiteracy. A college graduate recently applied to one of the great metropolitan newspapers for a job for the purpose of excreting how much knowledge of a general nature he had. He was asked what he knew about Socrates, to which he replied, "Nothing." Then he quickly added, "But I know where to find out." He was told to go and find out and report back the next day, prepared to tell all he knew concerning the life of Socrates. He went to the public library and worked all afternoon and well into the night, gathering data concerning the subject at hand. Next day, he reported back at the newspaper office at the appointed hour with one of the finest biographical sketches for the life of Socrates that the editor had ever seen. The man was given the job, even though he was knew nothing about the newspaper business. And today, would you believe it? That man is one of the highest paid newspaper man in America and one of the most successful man in the business. He carried no facts around in his head concerning Socrates, but he knew where to get those facts when needed. Incidentally, when I am on the subject, let me mention three of the very best sources from which facts can be secured concerning practically all that mankind knows or ever has known as far as known facts that have been recorded. One is your public library, one is any modern university, that the other is any modern daily metropolitan newspaper office. In that office of a newspaper, such as one of the Hearst papers, you can secure accurate data on practically any subject. For example, a few days ago, I wanted the address and the exact whereabouts of ex-president William Howard Taft. The Chicago Examiner supplied it in less than 5 minutes, and furthermore, they rendered me this service courteously and willingly, as if they came the real pleasure to do so. Most of the big daily newspapers have on the full picture of the most of the leading men of affairs of the world, and these can be seen or having borrowed by responsible people as a part of the service the great newspaper are rendering the public. It is surprising with a variety of accurate facts one can serve for the asking from the professor in a modern university. If you wish facts concerning chemistry or botany or biology or electricity or any other subject, you can usually secure all, at least a part of which you want, by merely calling on the professor of one of these departments at your local university. The man who succeeds in life is the man who gets what he needs it. And if he does and get in it not a success, no matter how proficient he may be in explaining the reason why he did not get it. If I were testing about application for a position, I would ask them not a question as to what they knew. I would be more interested in finding out what they could do with what they already had, they I and if they knew where to get facts when needed. Abraham Lincoln was not an educated man as far as schooling went, nor he man of letters, yet he was powerfully adept at getting things done when and in the manner necessary. He knew nothing about geometry or chemistry. He knew about considerable about the human heart and the ways of mankind. He knew how to get men incorporated with him, even though they actually disliked and disagreed with him. Lincoln was a man of education. Not long ago, a college professor asked me this question: what would be the first thing you would do if you were elected president of the United States? The first thing I would do, I replied, is to surround myself with a cabinet of the most successful executives I could find, each of whom knew where to find out quickly what he did not already know. Carefully analysis of the modus operandi of those who succeed to an extraordinary degree in business, finance, and industry will disclose that all succeeded not as a result of what they had stored up in their own mind, nor as a result of their own efforts, but they succeeded because they knew how to select men who could get things done. They succeeded because they recognized that no man has a complete mastermind, but that such a mind that can build to order, assemble as it were through the right sort of combination of other men's mind. Mr. Addison probably would not apply any application for a job, even though he could actually answer all of the questions on her list, unless that man showed clearly that he had the ability to get information with which to answer any question that might be on the list, and also the ability to take any combination of facts and work them into a practical plan. Possessing facts does not mean that those who possess them know what to do with them. In my research for a few years ago, I met a graduate of Hiil who came down to begging on the streets. He posed one of the most remarkable collections of facts that I have ever heard of one man possessing. Yet he was as helpless as a child when it came to building these facts into a practical plan through which to earn a living. If a man applied to me for a job, I would much prefer that he be able to satisfy me that he possesses certain qualities, not to brag on Mr. Addison's list of questions. I would want to know that he understood the value of initiative and actually practiced it, that he believed in himself, that he had the good sense to create an atmosphere of harmony among those with whom he worked, that he had developed the habit of performing more service and better service than he actually contracted to perform, that he refrained from slandering those whom he did not like, but at last not least that he knew when, where, and how to get all the necessary facts and materials to perform his work efficiently. Such a man, in my opinion, would come far nearer being a man of real education than the man who could merely answer all of Mr. Addison's long list of more or less abstract questions. Mr. Addison's list of questions reminds me of a man down in Washington, D.C., who was taking the civil service examination for the position of male courier. One of the questions obviously placed here to the test the application general knowledge was the how many soldiers did the British send over here to put down the rebellion of 1776, to which the applicant replied after scratching his head and thinking a moment with emphasis on the word thinking, a damn sight more than ever went back. He passed the examination with flying colors and got the job. His answer showed that he had keen sense of humor and was quick to do the practical thing in the event of emergency. So, do not lose sleep if you try to answer Mr. Addison's list of questions and didn't know better than I. Try again with the aid of the local library and you'll run up a better source. So thanks for watching this video, and we have completed the chapter 5. Now we'll read the chapter number 6. Permanent success is built on hardship and temporary failure, in the next video. So thanks for watching this video. Bye bye, see you in next videos.